Hi, this is Benendorf, and welcome back to another episode of Victoria 2, Heart of Darkness. We last left off, we had successfully taken some more land from both China and Russia, and had beaten Russia and France, two of our major rivals, in a large war. So, before I unpause, since the US is friendly with me, they have too many great power allies now. I'm going to see if anybody else has any chance of allying with me, because I could really use an alliance with another great power to stop France and Russia from, well, specifically Russia from trying a war, and they're not friendly, they're not going to give me anything. Specifically to stop Russia from trying to fight me every 5 years. But looks like I don't have any options at the moment, so I'll try and keep an eye on it. I'm also going to see... Still cannot build cruisers. I need naval ports level 4 or greater, of which there are some that are being built, and we'll finish some this year. So, the moment, just going to let the game run, and looks like our economy shook out pretty quickly. Oof, a lot of unemployed craftsmen, though. So I'm going to expand a factory here. And those factories in Busan are already expanding, so there's not a lot else we can do, but I still hate to see those men out of work. Checking the newspaper, Portugal is afraid of Russia, as is pretty much everybody that isn't me. There's an editorial about how man should never try to fly, and information about warfare of scientists. And rubber's dropping like a rock because no one wants it. And that invention gave us some extra organization in our armies. Oof. And great wars have now been discovered. So anytime two great powers are at war, here, it says it right here. Anytime two great powers are at war on either side, will be a great war, which forces... It pretty much just makes sure the war lasts a long time. Also, I'm wondering, I think they added a war goal to knock the Chinese, or knock uncivilized nations down a few reforms, which I might want to look into for the Chinese before I fight them again. I really don't want them to westernize, but in the meantime, great wars have now begun, so we will have to be a little more wary of being pulled into any wars with other great powers. And checking up, I think all of these naval bases are expanding, which means I'm going to go ahead and lower taxes on all the people. If I'm a little in the red for a little while, I can afford it, and it's probably worthwhile to let our people have some money. Let's see. Hawaii should expand here. I do not remember where the naval base was. Right here. And last but not least, let's see, Philippines. There we go. And still making plenty. More than enough. So in fact, I'm going to raise back up to 100% just to help fund any industries that we may have for that are building maintenance goods for land units, additional organization and supply consumption. But we are making money hand over foot. So in fact, I'm going to lower taxes again on everybody. And there we are. Now we're back in the red, but only slightly. We've got a little bit of time that we can run. Mechanized mining has shown up in IPO, which is a nice thing to happen. And the biggest bit of information on Great War, or in the newspaper, is Great Wars being front and center. Ooh. And someone has had some successful flights. And interestingly enough, Holstein has had a revolution, which might free up... Oh no, because Denmark's still the issue here. Never mind. I was going to say it might free up the Prussia to become Germany, or at least North German Federation, but they still have to... They still would need to take bits of Denmark, and they're not willing to fight the UK for it. Alright, nationalism and imperialism is finished. So next I'm going to... I guess I'll do some more railroads as the next thing to research, as our capitalists are kind of out of projects to spend money on, and we can't have that happen. Also going to take the Valley of Kings decision, which raises our infamy a little bit, but gives us a nice chunk of prestige and yearly prestige, and might turn around and lead to even more. Especially since Egypt is in fact in our sphere. Let's see. We have no one else that we're currently able to influence, so let's see who's producing the most liquor, the most regular clothes, and fruit. So, well, that doesn't help us with fruit. Wow, Romania is one of those. And Sweden. So, I'm going to spend some to try and get Sweden into our sphere. And, of course, another national focus. So, first I'm going to see... none of those are really big enough to be worth putting any capitalists in. But Kansai is, so I'm going to switch over to encouraging capitalists there, and put my new national focus to encourage capitalists in Tokahu. And in fact, I'm going to pull off some of these others that are focused on clerks to raise the amount of capitalists in some of these that have now gotten below the 0.1% that we're aiming for. And there we go. Once those all get back to where we'd like them to be, we'll switch back over to national or to clerks. Also going to recruit a few more troops here in the homeland, or the home islands. Going to recruit some artillery to strengthen this army that's holding the home islands. And going to raise taxes on the poor by 10%, since we are running a little bit more in the red than I'd like. In preparation of soon building a better navy, raising the maintenance on naval. Hopefully that will help our steamer factories make some more money and all of that. Ooh. Can either make everyone lose prestige, or I can gain a bunch of prestige and lose militancy and consciousness. So I'm going to choose to gain the prestige. We're still solidly in second place. Both the UK and the US are quite a ways behind us, and France is not that far ahead. Wow, this is interesting. The Ottomans are trying to take back Greece, but there are 3 great powers against them, and yet they're still currently winning due to ticking war score. However, they seem to have put in more than they will have the chance to actually take. And I'm surprised this has not turned into a great war, since they have since there's the Ottomans and... oh, the Ottomans aren't a great power. Never mind, that would be why. Anyways, looking at the newspaper. More dinosaur stuff, but nothing else all that interesting. And I'm going to wait until we get to 100% on Sweden before pouncing. And I'm going to just stop trying to even... or I'm going to stop even putting any influence into Portugal. That's not going to happen. Much as I wish it would. Oh my! Found a nice tomb, which gives us 1,800 research points and 10.5 prestige. It's a nice little boost. Plus the research points are quite nice. We'll speed up the time it takes to finish the steel railroad. Alright, and Kyushu is done, so going to move that one back to clerks in one of our larger provinces, one of our larger states, rather. As I said, I just wanted a few more capitalists in all these. Speaking of capitalists, I will allow the ones in Kyoto to have another 300, to take another 300 pounds. I'm sure they will spend it well. It looks like we're still have too many. Seoul is becoming quite industrialized, so I'm going to upgrade the luxury factory again. And increased assimilation rate plus the research points are probably worthwhile. Even if it cuts our research by 2% or so, it isn't quite 2% because of the way that the extra bonuses and all that work. But regardless, worthwhile. Additional colonial migration. Maybe we'll be able to turn one of these into... there's actually quite a few Japanese now in southern Zahili and in Shandong. I'll maybe give it another decade, and then I'll put some national foci there to try and turn them into states, which would be extremely useful because of their huge populations. They would be able to industrialize and become very, very valuable very quickly. Alright, I'm going to do cheap steel next, as it is a very low cost due to how long it's been available. Will increase both steel, iron, and coal production, as well as precious metals, and most importantly, precious metal size, which considering, well, this one's big enough, never mind, but all of this precious metal being created, or being mined, rather, quite valuable. And I do believe we can now build both battleships and cruisers. So first things first, au revoir to our old fleet, which is French, I believe, for goodbye. And so going to move fleet and the home. Actually, no, there's no reason to do that. Going to just switch the rally point over here and build us up a navy. So to start out, I will build one fleet of 10 cruisers, or 20 cruisers rather. Cruisers and 10 battleships, which will take up a lot more supply than we currently have available, but once all of these other naval bases are finished being created or finished being upgraded, we should not have as much of a problem with it. So, in worst case scenario, I'll run a little above supply for a little while, but I'm not worried about it. It will take a little while to get all the canned food, it would look like anyways. We really do need some more canned food. In fact, I'm going to... well, Upper House got rearranged, some more communist and some more anarcho-liberals, so pretty much just moving towards the extremes, which I'm not really sure why. Looking at rebels, they're all okay at the moment. And let's see, sorting by the most factories. Where canned food? I'm going to have the canned food as a higher priority on any of these that do produce canned food. Which it may just be that one factory. Oof, no wonder. And we don't have any empty states, at least. It would appear that we have hit the 0.1% in a couple other states. So we're going to move the national foci to our big states for clerks again. And it looks like we have a large amount of immigrants, with an E, people leaving our country. But we're also growing at an outrageous rate, so it is what it is. Perhaps we'll be able to increase political freedoms at some point pretty soon, and thus change that flow, but for the meantime, there's not a lot we can do about it. And more civil violence in Southeast Asia. Just going to choose the one with the lower population loss. as has been my plan throughout. And look, we're doing really well in literacy. I'm actually very impressed. That will be one downside to making like China states, is I imagine their literacy will be much lower, which will lower our research rate a little bit. Right, trading privileges. I can get 10% liberal, 10% conservative, or 10 years of colonial exploitation in Tonga. Tonga is not really meaningful, so I'm going to choose the liberal as I did the last one. And Greece just went bankrupt, presumably from this big war that they're trying to hold out against the Ottomans and two Sicilies. And unfortunately, still not enough liberals to enact anything else, which is a shame because I would like a few more freedoms. It would probably drop our militancy a little bit, but consciousness is low enough that people aren't really that interested. And hopefully our military score will jump back up to #1 when these big powers stop being at war, and more importantly, when our huge navy finishes. Wow, battleships are very expensive supply-wise. But until 1895, we can't upgrade any further. But that will be one of our first ones to, or probably the first thing in 1895. Our top priority will be to research High Seas Battle Fleet. And cheap steel just finished. So, what to choose next? I could get an additional diplomatic points and national focus. I'm going to go ahead and get romanticism because it'll take like 3 months. And a little bit of extra prestige gain. When we're getting closer to the end game where every little bit counts, will make a difference. Oh wow, and torpedo attacks have been discovered, so cruisers are now able to use those against bigger ships. Not exactly sure how those work. They were added in Heart of Darkness, but it makes it so cruisers are very useful to have. You can't just have navies full of dreadnoughts. And since we're so far in the green right now, I'm going to drop the taxes on the poor again. We have more money than we know what to do with. Certainly more than I know what to do with at the moment. And all these naval bases are still just trying to be expanded. So just waiting, ticking off a little bit of infamy. As China moved more troops to be on the border. And it would appear that we have lost a unit of hussars, or a unit of cavalry here in the 6th Army. So I'm going to build a unit of dragoons to replace them. Which, looking at the, dragoons are the way to go there. Plus, this one here has lost a unit, has lost one of artillery, but so that they're, well, no, I'll just build another artillery for them too. Want to reinforce these armies up here. All the rest seem to be doing okay, though. I don't think I lost any more units. And romanticism finished. Didn't take long, as was expected. I will go ahead and do scientific management. It's a little bit of a boost to our factory outputs, which should help our industrial power increase a little faster. We're still in 3rd place behind the UK and France, and I would like to at least overtake the UK in the next 10 years. I'm going to create a couple of generals. Oh, and another election is starting. Hooray, hooray. And going with interventionalism, since that's what we really like. Some annoying rebels have shown up, so I'm going to put the Homeland Protection Front onto the fleet and go beat off some of, or beat the, beat the rebels out of my land. And going to go for protectionism. as that is the conservative faction, which is who we like. Additional plurality should raise our, and did raise our research points. We're now over 50 a day. Easily beat those rebels, so moving them to the next spot. And should easily beat these rebels as well. So going to send them back to the home islands. Again, going with protectionism in this event. Moving these troops back to the home islands where they will guard our homeland. And I'm going to, quite a bit of shifting in the upper house, probably due to that extra 10%. I'm going to stop it here for today. We are now slowly building, or we are in the process of building up a new modern navy, and are doing quite well on the money front. Infamy's ticking off, so we might eventually finish off Siam. This has been the plan for ever so long. So thank you for watching, and check back soon for more Victoria 2 Heart of Darkness.